Developing now, two gunmen on the run in France. Police tracking the latest developments of two brothers wanted in connection to the terror attack in Paris, where 12 people were killed as those masked gunmen stormed the offices of Charlie Hebdo, a French satirical newspaper. Today, a nation pulling together, a defiant stance showing support throughout the streets of Paris. Here, a moment of silence at Notre Dame Cathedral. And later tonight, lights at the city's famed Eiffel Tower are set to dim. Hello everyone, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York. French authorities are reporting several arrests, but the gunmen still on the loose. In fact, there has been at least one reported sighting. So joining us now from the Paris bureau of the Associated Press is Thomas Adamson, a correspondent with the organization, joining us now from Paris. Thomas, I want to ask you then, it is a day of mourning in Paris. You have been out on the streets. The mood, I'm guessing, incredibly somber.
Well, I mean, this all came from President Francois Hollande last night. He suggested that the country mourn one full day, and a lot of different organizations across France have been interpreting this as a minute of silence. You heard in the link there that Notre Dame, they were ringing out the bells and observed a moment of mourning for the people that lost their lives yesterday. But we've also been in the metro, and there's been some very surreal moments in the metro. The normally bustling Paris metro has been, very eerily silent. Strangers staring at each other in solidarity. I spoke to one woman who was crying, one student woman that said, "I've just not been able to do anything in the last 2 days." And she used this minute of silence as a way to vent her emotions for the last 2 days. I'd say people are very jittery, very emotional, very saddened, but this has been a very important and poignant day of mourning for the French.
For the publication, Charlie Hebdo, we see those signs of mourning out there. NEWSzy, Charlie, I am Charlie. What is the reaction then from that magazine? Is it expected to publish next week's edition?
Well, we don't know really what exactly will happen in the coming days and the coming weeks with Charlie Hebdo. All we know now is that these people that worked in the newspaper, the satirical newspaper, have been slain. There's been a huge public outcry. There's been huge demonstrations in the Place de la République, the Republic Square, with people holding Charlie Hebdo in solidarity, holding up pens to show how they will not let these people come between the French and, one of the basic tenets of their democracy, which is freedom of expression. The French really do see themselves, since the French Revolution, as people that have, prided themselves on, the rights of man and freedoms of expression. So this has really hit the French really at the core of their values.
And there have been other organizations, newspaper, print, other print, television, that have also been coming out in support and showing their solidarity with Charlie as well.
Well, this affects everyone. I mean, even at the Associated Press bureau here, we're not even a French media organization as such. There are armed guards, armed police officers outside, as there are all over the media offices around the French capital. This obviously shows that Charlie Hebdo was a symbol of the French media, of the French press. And if Charlie Hebdo is targeted, why not another organization be targeted as well? That's certainly the view of the French government, who have really tried to beef up security across France and across the media institutions in Paris.
All right, Thomas Adamson from the Associated Press in Paris. Thomas, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I want to bring in ABC's crime and terror analyst Brad Garrett from Washington, D.C. with more on the search and the investigation right now. And Brad, another police officer killed this morning. What do we know about that relationship to this?
Well, Dan, we don't know that there is any. Could be, but we don't really know. The belief is it's not the two brothers just because of proximity. But you apparently have an officer make a routine traffic stop, and there's conflicting reports whether there are one or two gunmen come out of the vehicle, shoot and kill the police officer, injure another city employee, and then leave. So is it a copycat? Is it an independent, two individuals or independent group, or are they connected? I can guarantee you French authorities are trying to desperately see if there is any connection to determine if they have a bigger problem than the obvious.
One of the gunmen surrendered. The two others, the brothers, are on the run now. We've also been hearing sightings all over France. Have police been able to pinpoint a timeline or trace any kind of a idea of where they might be?
Earlier, a few hours ago, Dan, apparently there was a sighting by a civilian who stated he or she thought it was the two brothers. There's been some reporting there was gunshots fired by these individuals. And then shortly after that, you've got this huge police/military presence, helicopters above, which I think is still going on as we speak. So, the question is that a hot lead, or is that something that's in the past tense that they're just trying to collect the intel to move on?
As far as the actual attack itself, we saw then that these brothers, these three gunmen in total, clearly trained to pull off this kind of an operation. And do we know yet where they may have got this kind of training?
No, I mean, obviously there were a number of possibilities, and it's not necessarily the obvious is that some extremist organization overseas trained them. There are private places you can go, I assume in France, certainly in the United States, where you can learn what they call close quarter shooting. How to go into a room, how to assault a room, how to move, carry a weapon, and so forth. It appears to me, at the very least, they've had some type of training. The way they handle the weapons, the way they move, extra magazines they're carrying, the clothing, the gloves, the hat, all suggest to me that someone has taught them how to do this. Now, I want to sort of make one point is in that it's not that, if you got the right people with the right mindset, it's not that difficult to train people to do this. We put a lot of emphasis on, they have to be prior military, they've had to been trained by Al-Qaeda. That's not necessarily true. They appear to be fairly proficient with these weapons, but there are, as we talked yesterday, there are components or aspects of this operation that suggest they don't have their act together. They didn't know where the office was. They had to use an employee to code them into the area where the editorial staff was located. So those, that's not particularly good planning. So is this a hybrid? Is this a mix of they learned on their own, they decided to do this on their own, or is it part of a bigger picture? Remains unknown at this point.
And Brad, lastly, I wanted to ask you about this. The alert level was raised yesterday after this attack. Do we know, are there any other threats on any specific landmarks in Paris or elsewhere around the world?
Well, clearly not that the French or other governments are reporting. I will tell you that there has been an uptick in security in the United States. Some of it may be obvious. I drove by the Capitol at 5 a.m. this morning. I noticed extra sets of cruisers parked at intersections, which are normally not there. And so there is an increased presence here at various locations. I think that's really based more on precaution, not that they have specific threat information.
All right, ABC's crime and terror analyst Brad Garrett in Washington, D.C. Brad, thank you for that. Appreciate it. You can keep up with this story as it develops in real time by downloading the ABC News app and starting the story for exclusive updates on the go. For now, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.